So I was gonna post earlier today, and I did, but it got cut short by a phone call, and also it was rambly. You can watch it; it's an outtake. It's 8 minutes long, and 8 minutes and 12 seconds, I believe. And I didn't even get to segue really into what I was talking about. I started talking about Star Wars, which I love, and oh man, that was one again an inverted belch. It's terrible. It wasn't on purpose. It kind of felt like a hiccup. I get sidetracked a lot. Um, but this morning, I watched the season finale of season 5 of Star Wars The Clone Wars. Now, of course, when I saw the original film, I didn't see it in theaters. I saw it on DVD after it came out, obviously, or else I wouldn't have seen it. But I saw it on DVD. I was really skeptical of the whole thing because I was expecting something more in line with the Genndy Tartakovsky mini episodes, and it had a similar feel, but it also felt like it was geared more towards kids. And then for once they transitioned into having it be a weekly episodic show, and there were several seasons deep, I had basically written it off because I wasn't too wowed by the actual movie too much. Um, but then more and more people were like, yeah, if you like Star Wars, like the original trilogy, if there are things you like about the prequels, but you didn't love the prequels, this does a good job of kind of fleshing the whole thing out and making you like those characters a lot more and those interpretations of those characters. So I don't remember how, but I saw part of an episode and I was like, "Oh, this is actually pretty cool." And then the whole announcement of Darth Maul being reintegrated into the storyline, and it was sort of reminiscent of the Dark Horse what if kind of tale about called Old Wounds about a half droid, half Zabrak Darth Maul fighting Obi-Wan Kenobi and guarding Luke Skywalker on Tatooine, a very young Luke who wouldn't remember this kind of thing, and then battling it out to the death. So when I saw that they were kind of again integrating that idea into the series, I was like, you know what, I got to devour this. So they didn't have it on Watch Instantly, so I got the discs from Netflix and I devoured that shit like you would a hamburger after not eating for several hours. It was good. It was really good. Certain arcs are kind of juvenile and they're targeted at kids, but I feel like what a good animated series does for people who don't like to watch cartoons is it straddles a line in terms of demographics, and shows like Batman the Animated Series and a lot of the other DC related, you know, the DC related series um, they did that well. They proved to people that you could it didn't necessarily have to be an animated comedy like The Simpsons or Futurama or later Family Guy and stuff like that, or King of the Hill. It could be an action series and it could be animated and it could have that sort of Saturday morning flair, but it could also be targeted towards parents. And now there are several generations of Star Wars fans, so I feel like watching it, I don't feel like, I'm lowering myself to an adolescent level to enjoy something. I am an adult who is watching something that's equally made for me as much as it is for a 7-year-old who maybe hasn't even seen either the original trilogy or even the prequels, which could be a possibility. Some people don't grow up in a house that watches Star Wars. I know several people who did not see Star Wars till they were adults, and all of the magic was lost on them. They just didn't get it. And I think Star Wars, like many things, is something. It's something that you have to experience as a kid to really get. And hanging on to that devotion and that love is really hard to do. And I kind of talked about that in that outtake about dealing with a lot of Lucas's creative choices and what's done to the fan base, and I a whole entire movie, a whole entire documentary was made called The People versus George Lucas, which I definitely recommend watching if you are a Star Wars fan, or if you were a Star Wars fan, or if you're just a pop culture buff or a sociology, anthropology kind of minded person to see. It's a big part of the culture. It has been since it burst on the scene back in the late 70s. So, but anyway, talking about Clone Wars. Okay, now we're here. Talking about it. This most recent season, just like the original trilogy, is Luke's progress into becoming at least like the tip of the iceberg, just the tip. When it comes to him starting his Jedi training and reinvigorating and kickstarting basically the Jedi Order all over again, as well as when we get the prequels mixed in, then it's really about Anakin's rise, fall, and you know re-rise. That's not a word, but him coming back to the light side of the Force and bringing balance back. He basically, you have to destroy something in order to create it. You got to create to destroy, destroy to create. I don't know, something like that. That's again, that's why people have so many problems with the whole thing. But Clone Wars, the series, is basically the journey of this character, Ahsoka Tano, who is Anakin's Padawan, which is like a Jedi in training. So it's a mentor and student, mentor mentee kind of relationship, and also obviously gives us insight into you know why what's so inconceivable in Revenge of the Sith, or not completely conceivable, but a little half baked as far as Anakin completely falling to the dark side, but not enough, because obviously what happens in Jedi, and a lot of the stuff that happens, you know, with Obi Wan, it basically solidifies a lot of that stuff and makes it make sense. Um, and we get to see Ahsoka go from being this kind of again this smart mouthed little 14-year-old to blossoming into a very like basically like a compassionate, empathetic, strong, determined, self-righteous, but not necessarily in a negative sense, young woman. Uh, you know, um, and it's a young Togruta woman, I should say. Um, and But we know, since she's not in Revenge of the Sith, that at some point this is going to end badly for her. Um, that she's either going to get, either she makes it through the trials and becomes a Jedi Knight and gets killed during the purge, or she somehow leaves the Order. And so there's been so much speculation, because of that fact. It's like watching Titanic. The ship's going to go down. You just don't know how exactly it's going to go down and what's going to happen to the people on board exactly, in terms of like a story arc. You know, um, so like kind of the outcome is like she's not in the film series, so something's got to happen. And what that boils down to, what we now find out now, it's the end of the fifth season. We've seen all this growth, and then they have this story arc where she basically gets framed for a crime she didn't commit, and the Jedi Order sides with the Senate. And when it's proven that that she is innocent, and she's given the choice of whether or not she's been kicked out of the Order. On top of that, and she has to choose whether or not to go back. She chooses not, and it was this huge tear jerker of a scene. And I'm not too proud to say, like, cartoons can make me cry, and I get emotionally invested. And Star Wars is one of those things where I get emotionally invested because I think it ties into big ideas about loyalty and family and all that stuff that you don't, like, if you have those things in your life, it's hard to turn that part of your brain off. I mean, anytime there's a, like when Mufasa dies or Bambi's mom dies, that kind of stuff, that does makes me really sad, or the wife in Up, her passing away, that kind of stuff. It does really make me sad. And say what you will about Revenge of the Sith, but I teared up, when Obi-Wan screams, you were the chosen one, and all that stuff. You're like my brother, and that feeling of loss and disappointment and betrayal, and the fact that he just can't reach Anakin, that got to me because like maybe you haven't had that happen in your life, but like people come in and out of your life, and sometimes they leave scars, and proverbial limbs have been lopped off by proverbial lightsabers. So now with this whole rambly thing, but with Ahsoka leaving the Order, and the fate of the series is up in the air because they didn't renew, I guess, the contract. I don't have the specifics, which I should have probably looked up before I started recording this, but they didn't renew the contract with Cartoon Network, and I think that it has a little bit to do with Disney having the rights. So they've been working on a sixth season, but who the hell knows if it's going to be on Disney XD or whatever, or if it's going to be still on Cartoon Network. And it's going to be the season that leads up to Revenge of the Sith, so it's going to be kind of like, what the hell, Definitely want to know what happens, and maybe they'll flash forward and have it have something to do with Order 66 and the Purge and what happens, the aftermath, But that maybe that's later in the season. I don't know. But I really like Ahsoka Tano as a character. I've really grown to love that character. She's probably one of my favorite expanded universe characters now, um, because she shed light on a different side of Anakin, a nurturing side that didn't seem possible, especially with this portrayal in the prequels by Hayden Christensen, and that's a whole other story. I think Hayden Christensen is actually a decent actor when he's in a role that suits him. I think part of that hit why he was, in many people's opinion, so bad in the prequels had a lot to do with the direction. What made the original trilogy is the fact that George directed the first one, and he was there for every step of the way, but he handed it off to other people and let them do their own thing within reason. So I think that's what a lot of that has to do. And so going back to Clone Wars, he's done that every step of the way. He's been there for all the big story meetings and the planning, but he lets Dave Filoni and uh, I want to call him Plunkett and McLean, but I can't remember his name. But his last name is Plunkett. Basically let all those dudes on the all the directors and the writers take these ideas that he generates and then turn them into a really worthwhile show. So if you're a Star Wars fan, or if you just like sci-fi action drama kind of stuff, I would definitely recommend it. I think it's a really good show, and I got really emotionally invested in it, and I'm worried about what's going to happen to this character, and I want to know what happens. Does she go into seclusion? What the hell happens to her? But anyway, so this was a special Clone Wars edition of It Is What It Is. If you follow the show, or if you've been watching these, if you're a real or imagined friend, go ahead and leave a comment. Let's just have a dialogue. Yay.